The UFC Championship title is the highest coveted title in all of combat sports. Thousands of fighters have competed in the UFC over the years in hopes of one day earning that title shot. However, with the UFC roster ever expanding, it is only getting harder and harder to hear those words, and new. For some fighters, it seemed like only a matter of time until they became a champion, a destiny if you will. For others, they had to take the long road, the untraditional road, where it looked like at times a championship belt was simply too far out of reach. Today, we are going to cover those fighters, the ones who at a certain point seemed like they might as well just pack their bags and go home. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the list of the most unlikely champion in each division. Let's start off with the Flyweight division. Alright guys, let's keep it real. Alright, there is no other choice but Brandon Moreno, okay? This man is someone that if you watched his entire career, there would be a point where you would just not expect him to be a champion, plain and simple. Alright, this guy, he was on The Ultimate Fighter. He didn't win fights there. He lost to Pantoja, okay? He was cut from the UFC after a loss to Pantoja. Okay, it seemed like Pantoja was the guy that just had his number, which to be fair, he kind of does. Pantoja took the belt off him, but that's not what we're talking about here, guys. Brandon Moreno, he took a short notice fight with one of the top ranked guys in the world, Askar Askarov, and he fought to a draw. And that was enough for the UFC to keep him around, and he eventually made his way up to a title shot, and he had a draw with Deiveson Figueiredo. You guys know this. So they booked a rematch where Brandon Moreno, he tapped out Figueiredo. You guys saw the footage. He got the rear naked choke. I think it was in the third round, and became not only one of the most unlikely UFC champions, but also the first Mexican champion. All right. So good for Brandon Moreno. And you know, the flyweight division doesn't have very many champions, so I know it's kind of an obvious pick, but there will be some more spicy picks throughout this video. Alright, let's move on to the Bantamweight division.
It is called a stop to this contest at 51 seconds of round number 2. Declaring the winner by TKO
Alright boys, my Bantamweight pick is Sean O'Malley, the reigning champion right now. However, I feel like Bantamweight does have a few honorable mentions, okay, like Cody Garbrandt, who was just in no position to beat Dominic Cruz the way he did, and TJ Dillashaw, who, you know, in hindsight is, you know, obviously a championship level fighter, but when he first got his title shot, it was against the dominant champion, Renan Barão, and just no one saw TJ winning that fight. But, you know, Dominic Cruz and Renan Barão, those are guys that are beatable, okay? Aljamain Sterling, on the other hand, was a complete nightmare matchup for Sean O'Malley. Not saying he wasn't beatable, but for someone of Suga's style, it was just not something that I could really see happening, okay? Sean O'Malley, he only had one ranked win, and it was pretty much a robbery against Petr Yan. And he was like I said, he was taking on a nightmare matchup, and Sean O'Malley, he kind of has a one-dimensional fight style. He's obviously a striker, likes to keep it on the feet, has never submitted any, well, maybe he submitted people, but you get what I'm saying. He's a stand-up fighter, okay? Not to say he isn't really good. He has amazing takedown defense, and yeah, it has to be Sean O'Malley in my opinion. Don't look up my pick for this fight. All right, guys? Let's move on to featherweight.
Green trunks for the southpaw, the notorious Conor McGregor. Black trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr. Conor, relax.
by knockout and move.
Man, you know I had to go with Conor McGregor for featherweight, okay? Due to just the lack of champions that featherweight has had throughout the years, Jose Aldo was obviously a very dominant champion, held it down for a long time. Then, Conor came in and slept him. And then you had Max after him, who, Max had a few defenses, but then you had Volk, who's been holding it down like a beast. So really only 4 champions, all right? You had Yair Rodriguez snagging a fake interim belt, but we all know that was a fake interim belt, okay? So it's got to be Conor McGregor, okay? Due to the fact that he KO'd a nightmare matchup, just like Sean O'Malley did. Jose Aldo was the number 1 pound for pound at the time, and McGregor literally got it done in 13 seconds. Fastest title win in history. All right, but we do got to bring up that Conor has 0 title defenses, okay? Even though he did beat Chad Mini Mendez for the interim belt before this. So I guess you could say like that is another title win in featherweight, but it wasn't a defense of the undisputed belt. So that's my pick for featherweight, guys. I really don't think you can make an argument for anyone else. If someone like fucking Josh Emmett were to beat Yair and then beat Volk, it'd be Josh Emmett. But, for now it's got to be Conor McGregor. But, guys, I don't want to say it, but there's a small chance we might see Ilya on the list soon. All right. Let's move on to the lightweight division. Alright, man, when you're looking at the list of UFC lightweight champions, the one that stands out the most to me, it's gotta be Charles Oliveira, okay? This dude, when he joined the UFC, in his first 18 fights, he was a featherweight, right? His record was 10-8. Damn near an even record. That is like some amateur ass shit. You know what I mean? Like he was a mid fighter, and nowadays he's the elite of the elite. You know what I mean? The only guy he's lost to recently is Islam Makhachev, and we know how good he is now. So it is what it is. Charles was always labeled a quitter. Even still, I see it sometimes, and I just think it's completely outrageous to call him a quitter these days. It's like, so what? Islam tapped him. Like, a ton of guys lose by submission, you know what I mean? But back in the day, it was a little more, I guess you could say, warranted, because the one that stands out to me is I think he tapped to strikes against Paul Felder, or in the Max Holloway fight, it looks like he just quit, but he actually had some esophagus tear. But look, there's 2 other things that go against him ever winning a belt, and that is that he had horrible vision as a champion. He got it fixed before the first Islam fight, but up until that, the dude had horrible vision. He said he would see 3 of his opponents, and he would just hit the middle one, and it still got him to the belt. Now, he has fixed that. He said he got vision surgery, and he's 1-1 with good eyes, okay? Lost to Islam, win against Benny Dariush, so we'll see if he goes on another run with his new vision. But another thing is, this dude was literally paralyzed as a child. I think I read from age 6 to 16, he was hella just hella paralyzed. You guys could read into it more, but I'm just going off of memory and a quick Google search. Google search does say he was paralyzed as a child. I don't know what it was for, but it happened. All right, so that is my pick for the lightweight division.
KO, and now the new UFC welterweight champion of the world, Matt the Terror Serra.
Alright, man, if you're picking anyone but Matt Serra for welterweight, you're lying to yourself, okay? This man, he had no business fighting George St. Pierre, but if anyone doesn't know the story somehow, alright, the UFC did a season of The Ultimate Fighter where they had UFC fighters on, former UFC fighters that had been cut for one reason or another, And it was like a redemption season, alright? Like, one last chance, see what you can do. And the winner of the series gets a damn title shot. Alright? So, Matt Serra, I believe he beats Chris Lytle in the finale. Maybe I should fact check that. You know what? No. I think he beats Chris Lytle, and I think it was like a split decision. So, he had like a hella close fight on TUF, still got the nod, and then he fights George St. Pierre, who was the champion at the time. It was his first reign, so he had just won the belt. This was his first defense, as Bisping would say. It's not like I'm dominant chat. I'm not going to try that. Alright, but, where was I? Oh yeah, GSP's first title defense, Matt Serra, gets knocked the fuck out in the first round. Very similar to the next guy on the list. But he was a plus 850 underdog. I think that's the biggest underdog in UFC history. And he just said, watch this, alright? Biggest I'm him performance, alright? Now, Matt Serra, he didn't have the best overall career, alright? I think his record is like 11-7. Nothing crazy. This was the only title fight he won. And I said maybe the worst male champion, because I think maybe he is the worst male champion. Skill-wise and as far as, like, you know, 0 defenses. The only legacy he has is beating GSP. That's not to knock him, though, because that's worth a lot. You know what I mean? But, yeah, welterweight, the pick has to be Matt Serra. I can't think of a close second, just because of the circumstances that he got this title fight. So let's move on to the middleweight division. Yeah, man, this is another one where I feel like it's a little obvious, okay? Look at the list of middleweight champions. It's Michael Bisping, okay? And if I need to explain it, I will, okay? He had one eye. He had one eye when he won the belt. And he had one eye for like 10 whole fights. But, yeah, if you guys don't know, Vitor Belfort, he kicked this dude's eye out. Bisping had to go in there and fake his doctor's test and all that stuff. And, I mean, he took the opportunity of a lifetime, okay? I actually just talked about this fight in one of my other videos, my best press conference videos. But Bisping took this fight on about 2 weeks' notice, and he got the knockout in the first round. Sounds just like Tom Aspinall, which just happened last night as I'm recording this. But yeah, he took this fight on short notice, and Luke Rockhold had beaten him before. And Michael Bisping was a plus 600 at opening. I think at closing he was a little closer. Still a huge underdog though, but like plus 600, chins Rockhold in the first round. And he's from the UK, which unless you're Tom Aspinall, is usually a big disadvantage, okay? As far as your chin and your striking. So, yeah, shout out to Bisping for getting this done. Bisping, I feel like, is in a close second as the worst male champion, okay? Although, he does have a title defense against the number 13 ranked Dan Henderson, who was a fight away from retiring, and it was close, so... Yeah, buddy. You got a title defense, but what? Alright. Light heavyweight division, let's get into it.
And new undisputed UFC light heavyweight.
Guys, Jan Blachowicz, there was a point in time where you could look at his record and just... You would never guess he'd be a champion, okay? This man was 2-4 in his first 6 UFC fights. Guys get cut with that record these days, you know what I mean? He was chinned by Thiago Santos in 2019. He was like 1 away from a title shot, and then he gets chinned, okay, because he was on a good streak. And then so you're thinking, all right, man, not looking good for Jan, it's probably over. Goes on another win streak, beats Luke Rockhold, beats Jacare? Yeah, that's right, Jacare. Beats Corey Anderson, makes his way back to a title shot against Dominic Reyes, who is Dominic Reyes and is an athlete. And he also had just beaten John Jones, okay? Jan was also old as shit. I think he was like 37 or 38 when he won the belt, somewhere around there. I know it's one of those, but I mean, just crazy. And he's just he's a crafty guy. He goes in there and plods forward, not in like a fat heavyweight type of way, but like in a he's made of steel type of way, and he can just do it because he's powerful. He just went in there and plodded towards Dominic Reyes till he got the win. And also, he's the only guy recently to defend the light heavyweight title. He beat Israel Adesanya. Okay, handed him his first loss in MMA. I had to say it. Okay. Yeah, Jan Blachowicz, ultimate Polish power. Okay. Now let's look at the heavyweight division, guys. I can't even give a preview because I don't feel like heavyweight has a definitive one. Now, I said Brock Lesnar because I think if you're going to choose one, it's that one. Now, my honorable mentions are Daniel Cormier. Now, hear me out. I know he was the light heavyweight champion, but Daniel Cormier, it's like, he hadn't beat any contenders. He was going for champ status. And he was small. Super, super small. I know he's really strong and has really good wrestling, but, he also wasn't known for his knockout power, and he was fighting Stipe Miocic, you know what I mean, who is a monster in his own right back in the day, and Daniel just beat him in the first round by knockout. So I feel like Daniel Cormier is an honorable mention. Now, Francis Ngannou, I feel like is a honorable mention, but not in the traditional way of like, man, he had such a rocky career at the start and then he figured it out. Sure, he did lose his first title shot and eventually came back around to win. What I'm saying is like his story, right? And like just how unlikely it was for him to make it to the UFC in general. If you guys don't know Francis Ngannou's story, I recommend checking out his podcast on the Joe Rogan Experience. Dude grew up in sand mines, grew up in Africa, and had to escape there, and he made his way all around until he got to the UFC. But as far as like physical talent, he is a monster. You know what I mean? So I think the fact he won it isn't a surprise, but it's his story that is surprising. So that is kind of an honorable mention, just because he had no right being there, but he did. But that leaves me with Brock Lesnar. Okay, he got a title shot at 1 win and 1 loss. 1 win in K1. I think it was K1, and then a win in the UFC, or did he lose in the UFC? I don't know. All I know is he beat Randy Couture, of all people, for the belt, and he literally was just famous. So he got the title shot, and he got to fight in the UFC so early. And he was a physical specimen, okay? And, back in the day, guys, they didn't have USADA because the athletes were so trustworthy. The UFC, they could just look at the guys and be like, oh, there's no way they're juicing. We don't need anything like USADA. Ignore the bumps on Brock Lesnar's arm and shoulder. Okay, obviously I'm joking around there. But he was literally just a physical specimen. That's his best fighting attribute. Like I say, not much skill, just raw American steel, okay? And that's what it is. He's a white boy and he's jacked. Deal with it. And he doesn't look real. He looks like I don't know what he looks like, but he doesn't look real. Like, can you believe this is a real guy? Yeah, just funny. So I go with Brock Lesnar, and he has like 2 title defenses. I think Frank Mir and Shane Carwin. So, I mean, the guy has title defenses off of literally just being famous and being strong. Now, that's not to discredit his submission ability, because he does have wins by submission. But yeah, guys, who did I miss? Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to make it a little different. I did a more dramatic intro, and I did, I showed like highlights of the fighters. Hopefully that doesn't age poorly for me. Hopefully I'll be able to keep those in. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and comment any video ideas you want to see, and if I do it, I will shout you out, okay? I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a good day.